Hi everyone, it's Don from Don's Family Vacation, and I hope everyone had a great long weekend. About 6 months ago, I did a video called 25 Tips for First-Time Cruisers, and believe it or not, a lot of things have changed, and yeah, including my hair. I miss my hair. Oh well, a lot of things have changed, and new updates have come down, so I thought I'd better update that video, and so coming up next, you're going to have a brand new 25 tips for the first-time cruiser. Coming up, yep, right after this. Number one, choose your location where you want to go. Are you an adventurer? Do you like the nature, say of an Alaskan cruise? Do you want to have a more laid-back cruise like a Panama Canal cruise? Are you looking for culture and history, maybe a Cuban cruise or an Asian cruise? Once you figure out what kind of destination you want, then you want to pick the right cruise line for that destination. For instance, in Alaska, Princess and Norwegian pretty well are dominant in that area. Meanwhile, in the Caribbean, you got Carnival and you have Royal Caribbean who kind of dominate that area. So, and each cruise line has their own personality, where Carnival is known as the fun ship and the party ship, and Princess is known for more of a learning cruise, more seminars on board. So once you narrow that down, you narrow down where you want to go, what kind of cruise you want to go, then you narrow down what kind of cruise line you want to sail on that fits your age and your personality. Number two, the next thing you have to do is choose the right ship, because, for instance, Carnival has 40-some ships. Royal Caribbean has 28 ships in their fleet. So you want to make sure you're picking the right ship for you. Do you want to be on the largest cruise ship in the world like the Oasis of the Seas? Do you want a more smaller, intimate cruise line that has smaller ships like around 1,000 people like the Gem on the Princess? All these kind of things come into an account. And then once you choose what size of ship for your personality, you want to choose the right stateroom. Get your travel agent involved or do the research online. Every single cruise line has a breakdown of where the staterooms are on their ships on their website. So it's very easy to go in and pick what your stateroom is. You want to be away from elevators. You don't want to have the dance floor above you or the concert hall above you. You want a balcony suite that could be obstructed. All kinds of things can happen. There's so many categories and so many breakdowns on cruises. It's incredible. I really suggest kind of that maybe a travel agent is the best way to go to find out exactly the best rooms for you, where the movement on the ship is less, where the noise is less, and where it's just much more convenient for you. The next thing you want to do, number three, is you always want to bring your passport with you. I know some cruises will say as long as you're in the United States and you're arriving back in the United States, you don't need to bring a passport with you. But you never know what happens if a bus breaks down and you miss the ship and you're stuck on wherever you are and you don't have your passport. Now, I don't mean you have to carry it around with you at all times. What I do is I carry around a printout of my passport, and I lock my passport in my safe on the cruise line. What happens if you don't make the ship back? They'll go into your room, get the passport, and they'll leave it with a customs officer on shore. So you'll have your passport no matter what, even if you get left behind. So you don't have to carry it around with you, but it's a great idea to make sure that it's in your stateroom with you at all times. Number four, print out all the documentation that you possibly can and carry it with you. Don't pack it in your luggage, because many people don't know, but some ports, when you're driving into the port, they'll ask to see your documentation before you even let you on the ground. So if you pack it in your suitcase, now you're parking, you're opening up all your suitcases looking for that documentation. Just keep it with a carry-on with you. And also, don't forget to go online and do online check-in before you go for your cruise. It can speed up your boarding so much faster. I've seen it save 2.5 hours if you went online and you did online checking than if you did check-in at a crowded port. Insurance. I don't really care about all the other insurance, cancellation insurance, things like that. That's your choice. If you want to take a chance on spending $9,000 on a cruise, having your plane delayed, missing your cruise, and losing $9,000 instead of spending $400 to make sure you get that $9,000 back, that's all up to you. What I do say is always, always, always get medical insurance, because you never know what can happen on the cruise, and it's for most people who have no preconditioned medical needs. The cost of a 7-day cruise for medical insurance is like $35. I just came back from Mexico in the wintertime, and my entire insurance package was $65, and I had cancellation insurance. So it's worth it to get it, especially the medical insurance. I highly recommend never, ever, ever traveling anywhere, especially outside your home country, without travel insurance. Number 6, if you're a first-time cruiser and you've never been on these ships before, especially if you're getting on like a larger ship, like a Royal Caribbean's Oasis or something along those lines that could be, 1,100 feet long and things like that, arrive early. Be one of those first people to get on the ship. That'll give you time to do some exploring before your room's ready. It can be very overwhelming your first time on a large cruise ship, especially as you get up in age and you realize how much larger ships are nowadays than the way they used to be back when the Love Boat used to premiere on TV. They used to be 3 decks high, and now they're 20 decks high, if you know what I mean. So arrive early, explore the ship, and then get your footings and bearings, and it'll make your cruise go so much smoother now that you know where you're going on the ship. Number 7, if you're flying into a cruise, if you don't live near the port, I highly recommend always getting a pre- and post-night hotel. So you arrive the day before and you leave the day after your cruise ends. The day after is kind of your choice. Less things happen on the day after, but you definitely don't want to miss the cruise. So you want to make sure, if you're traveling in the winter especially, airlines can be canceled like this. Weather can come in overnight and you never knew it was coming. So make sure that you book a night ahead of time. Not only are you safer to make your cruise, but it's also so much more relaxing to arrive in the city the night before instead of rushing from the airport to the cruise port and trying to make it on board with all your luggage. And what happens if the suitcase is missing? Don't bother with it. Book a pre- and post-night hotel. Number 8, bring some sort of seasickness medication with you. Gravol. Most people don't need it, especially on large ships, but if you do need it, if you run into rough weather, you have it with you. And guess what? Buying it in your local grocery store or pharmacy for $5 is a lot cheaper than buying it on the cruise ship for $45. And yes, I've seen it go over that much. Number 9, for a while there, all cruise lines were confiscating power bars. They weren't going to let them on the ship. Now they've loosened that up a little bit, and some of them are allowing some power bars on there, but there's some certain things. Some you can't have surge protection, some of them can only be so long, some of them can only have so many plug-ins, you can't have frayed wires. So the best thing to do now is to check online. Almost every cruise line out there has a little blurb on power bars now and what you're under the section, what you can bring on board. And if you don't get it there, just send them a message and ask them, can I bring a power bar? What are the regulations? And they'll be glad to get right back to you. That way you know before you go what you're allowed to bring on, because a power bar is so handy, especially if you have USB ports on it for charging your laptop, charging your phone, charging your computer, your camera, etc. So check online, make sure that first of all they do allow power bars, and then what kind you're allowed to bring. Number 10, the safety drill. Every cruise line going on the ocean has to perform a safety drill that informs you what lifeboat to get on and what to do in case of an emergency, and it's mandatory for everybody. So if it's mandatory and it's set for 6 o'clock, show up at 6 o'clock. Don't be that person that shows up at 6:15 and there's 85 people standing there who've been waiting for you for 15 minutes to show up because la-di-da, you couldn't be bothered to get there on time. So don't be the rude person. Don't go there and say, oh, I didn't feel like standing around for 20 minutes. Well, guess what? Everyone else was doing that while they waited for you an extra 15 minutes. So if that's you, shame on you. I would say be that person who's on time every time. Number 11, the drink packages. Drink packages are very subjective. They can be long and involved, or they can be very simple. Some cruise lines now have gone down to only 3 drink packages. You got your basic soda packages, your high-end coffee packages, and your alcohol packages, which makes it so much simpler. Because 2 years ago, Royal Caribbean had 15 drink packages at one point, so you can see how much complicated it was. So choose the right one for you. Myself, I'm not a big drinker, so I never get the alcohol drink, but I drink a lot of soda. People I travel with drink a lot of coffee, so I look into those drink packages. Get the one that's right for you. Look at them both. Figure out how much you would actually spend if you were spending on just at the bar, for instance, and get the right one for you. Because if you only have a couple drinks a night, you might not want the high-end alcohol package. But if you do have, say, 3 glasses of alcohol at night, and you're a heavy specialty coffee drinker and a pop, well, the high-end alcohol package probably includes those as well, so it might be worth your while. So study the drink packages before purchasing which one you need. Number 12, don't be late getting back to the ship. If you think the ship is going to wait for you, yeah, you've got another thing coming. Quite often people are left behind and they're devastated. They don't know what to do. Not only that, it can be hugely expensive because you have to somehow either get home from where you are and you have to figure out, or you have to catch up to the ship somehow, fly to the next port or something along those lines. And that can cost thousands of dollars on top of your price of your cruise that you've already done, not to mention hotel and airfare, and it's all on you. So don't be late getting back to the ship. If the ship says they're leaving at 5, show up at 4. Don't run the chance of showing up at 5:30 and that ship is sailing away. Number 13, book as early for your cruise as possible. If you go on the website and you're checking cruises every day, if you can book 18 months out, that's going to be probably the cheapest rate you're ever going to find, because as the ship fills up, the rooms become less available, they start jacking up the prices. So those people who wait for those last minute deals, yeah, you might think that you're saving $300 or $400 a person, but in reality, the cruise line has probably already upped the prices of that stateroom $300 and $400 anyway. So you're not getting any savings and you waited to the last minute. So whenever possible, book the cruise as far out as possible. Number 14, shore excursions. There's 2 ways to go. You can book through the cruise line or you can find one on shore for cheaper. And they can be 40% cheaper than what you're going to pay on the cruise. The catch is, if you book through the cruise line and for some reason the bus breaks down and they don't make it back to the ship and the ship leaves, it's the cruise line's responsibility to get you back on shore or back home if you're, say, on the last day and it's cheaper for them to fly you home than it is to fly you back to the ship. It's on them, the cost is on them, and they will get you somehow either to the ship or back home at no expense to you if you booked through the cruise line. If you booked on yourself and went ashore and got a cab or something along those lines, then all those expenses, if you're late getting back to the ship, are on you. So if you're one of those persons who's guaranteed to know that they're going to be back on the ship on time, you can save money going to shore. But if you want to be peace of mind and everything, I would recommend going through the cruise line, because you have that little extra insurance that if anything did happen 1 time out of 1,000, you're covered. Number 15, gratuities. A lot of people don't know this, but especially if you're a first-time cruiser, all cruise lines will charge a gratuity between $13.50 and $19 per day per person in that stateroom. So it can run, $30 to $40 a day on your cruise for 2 people. It'll show up on your bill at the end, or there are some packages out there that the gratuities will be included, but you want to make sure of that before you go. If that's not part of your package, then that's going to be on your bill. And a lot of people are surprised at the end when they have a $300 gratuity bill and they've been tipping people in the bars and in the restaurants and the room attendants and all these people, they've been paying them cash, and all of a sudden, oh, there's still $300 gratuity bill. What's going on? So be careful of that. Gratuities will be added to your bill, and especially if you're going on a long cruise. I personally know of a couple who won the lottery. They went on a 173-day world cruise and ended up with a $9,000 gratuity bill that they didn't know about. But, you know, they won the lottery, so it wasn't so bad. Number 16, this is one of those big changes from just 6 to 7 months ago. Almost every cruise line out there now is now charging for room service, where before it was free. But I guess a lot of people were taking advantage of this because the room service menu is almost the same as the dining room menu, and you could eat in your balcony and relax instead of being in a crowded restaurant. Just order your food whenever you want it. So yeah, now beware, cruise lines are now charging for room service, and they're also, some of the items may be free to get room service, but then some of the items you have to pay for to bring to room service. So study that menu carefully before you order so you know exactly what your charges are going to be. Number 17, my pet peeve. Treat the staff courteously. They're not slaves. They do their best to make sure you have a great vacation and a really good cruise, and your room is clean and your food is good. And sometimes the person you blame for something, like if your food comes a little bit cold, you blame the waiter, but in reality it's the chef who did it poorly. So why are you yelling at the waiter, or why are you yelling at the girl bringing you a drink? So just put it this way, be a nice person, don't be rude. A lot of these staff members on cruise lines work for basically under minimum wage, and they're supporting families back home. They're glad to have these jobs, and they're very glad to serve you. And if you treat them like garbage, I don't understand why you would. They're human beings. They're there being polite and waving, and I've seen people stand in line and they're in the wrong line for what they want at the restaurant, and the person, oh, I'm sorry, the pizzas are over there, and they just go, oh, Jesus, and they have to walk over. It's not that person's fault. You're an idiot and you got in the wrong line. Look where you're going and be polite and be a nice person. End of story. Be nice. For a change of pace, I recommend trying at least 1 or 2 nights of a specialty dining restaurant. Some of the cruise lines' main dining room is okay, while some of them are very, very good. But the specialty dining is usually always very, very good. So once in a while, specialty dining might cost you $15 in some restaurants, where others can cost you $70, but you get a high-class, personally cooked meal from your chef. Those restaurants usually only hold 40 or 50 people compared to thousands in the dining rooms. And so the chefs are cooking your meal by themselves. They don't have 40 other assistants cooking in bulk. So the food is always good usually, and the atmosphere is quieter and less stressful. So I recommend specialty dining 1 or 2 nights on a cruise, just to enjoy the food. So you're in the dining menu and you can't make up your mind, do I want the steak or do I want the chicken? Well, guess what? You can just order both. They'll bring you both. There's no problem. I'd like the steak, I'd like the chicken, boom, here you go. It doesn't matter if you don't finish it. They're not going to charge you extra. It's part of the cruise price. You can order 2 entrees if you want. You can order a 3rd entree if you want. Just don't overdo it, because there was this lad who went on a cruise and he went to the waiter and he says, I wanted 1 of everything on the menu, which is over 45 items. And the chef for the entire cruise ship, who's in charge of 14 or 15 restaurants, made his way down to that person, walked up to his table, looked at him and said, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And why would he? But you can order too. Number 20, bring some kind of air freshener with you because your luggage is going to get musty, your towels are going to be wet, your bathing suits are going to be wet, and just a little bit, if you have 3 people in the cabin, it can get a little dank. So you want to be able to do a little bit of spray, and especially if you're in an inside cabin and you don't have a balcony where you can open up the windows. So bring some air freshener if you're in one of those cabins, and also when you travel, go ahead and throw 1 or 2 dryer sheets into your luggage because it'll keep your luggage smelling fresh as well during the travel from your home to the cruise ship. Number 21, pack for where you're going and what you're doing, and know all about it, because a lot of people will go to Alaska in July and August and they'll bring nothing but t-shirts. Well, guess what? It's still Alaska. And it's going to be cold days and cold nights, and the wind coming off the glaciers is going to be freezing. So in all actuality, 75% of your wardrobe going to Alaska should be fall and winter clothing, and then 25 for some summer. So keep that in mind. Know where you're going and pack for what you're going to. Not only for where you're going, but what you're going to do. If you're going to go on a lot of excursions where there's going to be a lot of climbing and hilly areas, and you're going to be walking through the woods and the water, you want to make sure you have the proper footwear for doing those events. You don't want to be walking around in flip-flops in the middle of an Alaskan forest because you didn't pack anything else. First of all, chances are they won't even let you go, and you'll have paid for the excursion anyway, and it's your fault because you don't have footwear. So keep that in mind. Pack for where you're going and what you're going to do, not just throw things into a suitcase thinking it's going to be warm no matter what. Number 22, the ship time is the ship time. The ship time never changes. So if you pass over a time zone while you're on a cruise, say you're heading from Florida to San Francisco, well, you're going to pass through 3 time zones, but the ship time remains the same. So don't be fooled if you go on a shore excursion and you've changed time zones and it's an hour later where you are, and you think, oh, I have an hour extra to get back to the ship. No, you don't. The ship time remains the same. So if they said 5 o'clock ship time, that ship sails at 5 o'clock, not the local time of 6 or 7 o'clock, depending on where you are. So the ship time always remains the same no matter where you go. Number 23, the best time to find deals on the ship for purchasing merchandise is on the last day of the cruise, where they're trying to clear their inventory to make room for the new inventory about to be loaded when they get back to shore. So if they bought 100 of something thinking they're going to sell 90 or so of them and they only sold 20, well, those things are going to be slashed about 80%. So the best day to buy merchandise on a cruise ship is always the last day of the cruise. 24, you want to get a spa, but it's always busy. People on the first day of the cruise, they run to the spa and they book all kinds of appointments. But guess what? You can not only get an appointment, but you can save money if you decide to do a spa day on a port day when everyone's off the ship, because they're looking for business. And I've seen rates cut 60% on a port day for a spa than on the first day when you arrive. So keep that in mind. If you're going on a port that you've been to before, or you're really not that interested in going to, or you're going to get back early from, try and book a spa day on that, and that's when the sales for the spa are going to happen on port days. Number 25, the weather. It's not the cruise line's fault, it's not the captain's fault, it's not your room steward's fault, it's not the waiter's fault that it's raining on your cruise. It's something else's fault. So don't blame them. Not only that, if you run into rough seas and you're going to a port that doesn't have an actual dock and that they have to ferry you back and forth from the ship, if the seas are too rough, they're going to skip that port and just remain at sea. So you may not get to that port or destination if weather comes. So you're going to have to learn to roll with those punches, because if you look at the fine print on your cruise tickets and everything, you don't get refunded because they miss ports. Now, if your cruise is halfway through and something happens to the ship and it gets canceled, they usually offer you perks, free cruises, stuff like that. But if it's just bad weather, guess what? It's just bad weather. That's an act of God, as they say in the insurance industry, and you're not going to get your money back for bad weather or rainy weather or too hot of weather. Can you imagine if they allowed that every time there's a little 20-minute rain shower on a cruise and everyone runs to the guest services saying, oh, my cruise is ruined, oh my God, it rained for 15 minutes, I want money, I want free cruises. So yeah, that's why that fine print is in there, because we all know there'd be about 100 people who would do exactly that. So there you have my 25 updated tips on first-time cruisers and what to do. I'm going to give you a 26 tip right now, and I gave it in my last video, and a lot of people were surprised by this, but travel agents like myself can book blocks of rooms on cruise ships. So if I've been dealing with Princess Cruise Lines for 4 or 5 years and they know I'm a trusted travel agent and I usually sell what I'm going with, they will allow me to block off 100 to 200 cabins on one of their cruise ships that I know I can sell. So say a specialty wine and dining cruise or a spring break cruise that I know is going to party with all the college students, and I know I can sell those cabins easy. So not only do I get those cabins, I block them off from anybody else being able to book them. I get them at a cheap rate because I'm getting so many cabins and I'm booking them early. I also get group rates for things like a special cocktail party or room amenities or chocolates or wine in the staterooms, things like that. And it's all included in the one-time low price. So if you're looking for a cruise and the one you want to go on seems to be booked or there's not very many staterooms left, contact a travel agent and ask them if they have booked a group cruise on that ship. And if they don't, chances are somebody in their travel agency has, and they can just contact them and say, can I book somebody into that group? And the other travel agent is going to say, sure, no problem. They have to sell those staterooms anyway. And you're going to get the cheaper price, you're going to get better staterooms, and you're going to get amenities as well for on the ship. So it doesn't hurt just to call and ask, because you can save literally thousands of dollars by just contacting a travel agent and not booking yourself in some cases, especially for cruises that are filling up fast. Like first time the ship is going on a launch, or a transatlantic cruise where it's shipping from North America to Asia to do the Asian market during the winter or the summer. So be careful with that. Don't be afraid. It doesn't cost you anything. Just contact a travel agent. The worst thing they can say is, no, sorry, we don't have anything booked in there and there's nothing for us to do. You're not losing anything, but you can save thousands. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more tips and more travel videos from around the world, please hit the subscribe button. We're getting very close to that 1,000 mark now, and I'm very excited, and you guys have been great. And thank you again for all the well wishes. As most of you know that I'm going through cancer treatments right now, and things are going well. I'm very, I still miss my hair, but things are going well, and I thank every single person out there who's sent well wishes and prayers, and I really, really appreciate it. You don't know how much. So until next time, have yourself a great vacation.